Do you have high expectations for yourself? Do you also tend to push yourself to do the best you can? And sometimes might you be a little bit self-critical? If you said yes to those things, you might be a perfectionist. And in which case you might be interested in some research that suggests there is actually a way to maintain the benefits of perfectionism, like being driven, being motivated, being hardworking, but whilst also avoiding the costs of perfectionism, like being self-critical or even experiencing depression symptoms. My name's Madeleine Ferrari, and I'm studying a PhD on self-compassion at the University of Sydney. So what actually is self-compassion? So firstly, I'm going to ask you to humour me for a second and think about a time today when something went wrong. For me, you're actually looking at it. Firstly, I got the time zones mixed up. Secondly, I still have no idea how to get rid of this background on Zoom. And moments like this are the prime breeding ground for self-critical responses, right? And that certainly happened to me. So that self-critical voice popped up. Maddie, you're an idiot. You should have fixed this well before the day of the FameLab thing. No one is going to take you seriously with a frozen background. Why did you put it on there in the first place? But I know for a fact that I would never say those things to a good friend who was in this position. I would never say those things to a good friend who I cared about, who I loved, who I wanted to see do well in life. And yet, if that friend was in this position, I would find it so easy to make a joke out of it, to put it in perspective, to comfort them. And ultimately, I might even say, look, even if you did stuff up in a big way, I still think you're a wonderful person. And this is self-compassion. So we have this compassionate wisdom that we extend out to other people who we care about. But self-compassion is also about directing a bit of that inward and treating ourselves that same way, rather than having that harsh critical voice be the dominant story. But what does the data say? So some colleagues and I conducted a large 1,000 participant study online, and we looked at questionnaires examining self-compassion, perfectionism, and depression. Now, we looked at the last two first, and unfortunately, we found a really clear link. So being a perfectionist does actually predict depression symptoms. But then we dug a little deeper, and this is where it got interesting. In the group that were highly perfectionistic, those individuals with low self-compassion had a really close link. But for the individuals with high self-compassion, this link was actually broken. And this is really exciting because this is possibly suggesting that self-compassion may act as a protective buffer, allowing you to maintain the benefits of perfectionism without also developing the downside, depression. So what does this mean for you? Keep doing your thing as a perfectionist, work hard, have high expectations and push yourself. But when inevitable failure occurs, which it will because we're only human, catch yourself and notice how you're actually treating yourself in that moment. And if you wouldn't say it to a good friend, then why are you saying it to yourself? Thank you.